Good morning. I was super sweaty, so I went back and changed, and then we're back for Hebrews. So if you're watching this in the wrong order, I'm sorry. Also, I hope these get out on time. We'll see. This is our first video for our study of Hebrews, and I'll send that link in the text. It'll also be in the description to this or something. If you don't get it, if it's hard to find, just text me and I'll get it to you. This is another study from She Reads Truth. It's just a walk through Hebrews. It's super easy to follow, short readings per day. I really hope you love it. I was actually looking for an Acts study, and then I ran across this and went, oh man, this just looks so good. So we're starting with Hebrews, and it'll take us 4 weeks. And if we want to keep going after that, please, Lord willing, let's go through Acts. It'll be Pentecost. It'll be exciting. So, if you've never read Hebrews before, it's towards the back of the New Testament. I'm going to read us just a little bit of the introductory material from my Bible, just because it's helpful to get some context. The devotion by the devotional writer on She Reads Truth also has some good background information, so I'm not going to really read that. But it's there. Please read it if you want to follow along. This plan also goes, so it'll give you for each day some of Hebrews, and then most days it also has some other snippets of books that are referenced in the chapter, or that the devotional writer references. So if you're looking for just a quick bite to go to just walk through Hebrews with us, just the reading that I'll do and read aloud is perfectly enough. If you're looking for a little bit more in depth, make this kind of your own. There's some more readings here in this She Reads Truth study that they've kind of laid out for you. So, and you can read them on the website. So today, for example, we'll read Hebrews 1 through 14, which is just the first chapter of Hebrews. And then you can also read 2 Samuel 7, 12 through 15, John 1 through 5, 2 Corinthians 4 through 6. If you're looking for some better context on what Paul's talking about. So, that is what our Hebrew study will look like. I'm very excited. If you have questions, or if you want more Hebrews, or if you're liking this, or just please let me know. I'm here for you. I'm so glad you're here. So let's dive into some Hebrews, shall we? The beginning of my Bible, or the beginning of the book of Hebrews in my Bible, just kind of, gives a sketch of like, oh, it's to the Hebrew people. Okay. The author calls this a message of encouragement in Hebrews 13, just kind of talking about what this book is actually about. He'll begin with talking about Jesus, and then Hebrews is famous for its discussion of faith, kind of there in the middle, and then kind of end with some moral exhortations or commandments. So that's like kind of where we're going, broadly speaking. Let's read our reading. So let's read Hebrews 1 through 14. In times past, God spoke in partial and various ways to our ancestors through the prophets. In these last days, he spoke to us through a Son, whom he made heir of all things, and through whom he created the universe, who is the refulgence of his glory, the very imprint of his being, and who sustains all things by his mighty word. When he had accomplished purification from sins, he took his seat at the right hand of the Majesty on high, as far superior to the angels as the name he has inherited is more excellent than theirs. For to which of the angels did God ever say, "You are my son, this day I have begotten you"? Or again, "I will be a father to him, and he shall be a son to me"? And again, when he leads the firstborn into the world, he says, "Let all the angels of God worship him." Of the angels, he says, "He makes his angels winds, and his ministers a fiery flame." But of the Son, "Your throne, O God, stands forever and ever, and a righteous scepter is the scepter of your kingdom. You love justice and hated wickedness. Therefore God, your God, anointed you with the oil of gladness above your companions. And at the beginning, O Lord, you established the earth, and the heavens are the works of your hands. They will perish, but you remain, and they will all grow old like a garment. You will roll them up like a cloak, and like a garment they will be changed. But you are the same, and your years will have no end. But to which of the angels has he ever said, 'Sit at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool'? Are they not all ministering spirits sent to serve for the sake of those who are to inherit salvation?" So this first chapter kind of just starts kind of with a bang, right? We don't have the same introductions and, to these people, from these people that we have in some of the other letters in the epistles in the New Testament. This is a cool just introduction to who Christ is, right? And you would think that by this point these people wouldn't need that. But I had a pastor, I don't remember, who said one time the first generation, it takes 3 generations to lose the Christian faith or any faith, because the first generation believes, hears and understands it, believes. The second generation assumes, because the first generation believed but didn't teach it to them, and the third generation forgets. And so that's how quick it takes for us to forget if we're not careful to teach these things to our children and proclaim them to the generations, like the Psalm just talked about, proclaiming them to the next generation. If we're not careful, the first generation will believe, the second generation, thinking they can ride on the coattails of the belief, is going to assume, and the third generation is going to forget. And so even in the 70 years since Christ's death, the author's kind of worried that the Hebrew people have forgotten, or that they've assumed, and that it's hard for them to now understand exactly who the Messiah is, and why he came exactly for them, what was so miraculous about his coming. And so he's starting off with these distinctions from the angel, saying Christ was not a prophet, Christ was not an angel. What the prophets wrote about him was actually true. They never wrote this kind of thing about the angels. This is particular to Christ. This is particular to our Messiah. I've always thought it was really cool how God draws distinctions between us and the angels in the scriptures, and this is kind of another. We can kind of find that in here too. Just kind of another reminder that the angels are the servants of the Lord, right? That's mentioned in here. The angels are heavenly angelic beings made to serve God, but we're the only ones that are made in the image of God. And so we actually have a better opportunity to commune with Christ than the angels do, even though we're on earth and they're in heaven most of the time. It's actually particular to us to be able to be as close to Christ and as close to God as we are. And that's just miraculous to me and reminds me of my worth and of the importance of Christ's incarnation, right? That we have this perfect example of how to interact with God and of how to be human. So that's kind of what this first chapter reminds me of. The devotional writer kind of takes us through some of the prophecies a little bit better, and how wonderful Christ is, right? That we see in this chapter and in the Old Testament. I read this also and I'm reminded how majestic and awesome Christ is, and how important he is to us. That's the same power that we get to ascribe to, and then also of his incarnate example for us of what it's like to be human and to be able to have that opportunity to choose good and to choose love of God and love of neighbor, and to commune with God the Father more and more each day, and to get to have that direct line to God through Christ, have God speak to us. Even in these, it says, in these last days, he spoke to us through a Son who is heir of all things and through whom he created the universe. That's the Christ that we know. That's the Christ that we will get to be with someday. That's the Christ who's given us the way to the Father. So I hope that this first chapter is enlightening to you, that you have a great time reading it, and I will see you guys tomorrow morning.